Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go right there. We got you.
What's our theme?
The theme is birthstone.
It's what?
Birthstone.
Birthstone.
That's the name of the magazine that these people and I worked on 40 years ago. Came out with how many issues? Over how many?
You came out with 12.
No, they did not.
Do you know everybody's birthstone as a result of working?
No, we did not.
issue.
Huh?
You want it back?
Yeah, I should go here because we're going to use it. All right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about
everyone's-
to get underway.
You know
I'm sorry for the
kidney
delay.
stone as well?
Yeah, well, no, that's a different story. So, you may take your seats and place them where you might like to place them. I would like to say, hear ye, the spirits are about to speak. Are they friendly spirits?
Yeah.
Just listen. And go, David.
Hello, baby. Sacred checklist. Checklist. Welcome, Sacred Grounds with Dan Brady.
Dan, Brady.
This is my
As the current
doppelganger.
host of this, the longest running open mic in the known and unknown and partially known and partially unknown universe, serving up good food and fine poetry since 1972. Lo, those years ago. Tonight's co-pilot is Have a big hand for Petty and Fiona, the invisible Fiona, our hosts. And please support this reading by enjoying the food and drink served here. Poetry of all kinds, ladies and gentlemen, is welcome here. We respect the mic. That means keeping conversations to a minimum and to a slight whisper. Putting phones on mute, vibrate, or airline mode. Not disturbing the poet while they're just speaking. Hey, buddy. Walking in front of them.
Even if they are
and keeping to the
disturbed.
time limit. Usually only 5 minutes. But that can change in another universe. If you want to know what is going on here, just sit and listen. And get on the emailing list or join the Facebook group. Please note our streaming link. It's hot. It's handy in 5 ways. Why, you can view conveniently enough from home. Number 2, family or friends can see you live or later on. Number 3, want to hear so-and-so? You remember so-and-so. So-and-so's poem
so-and-so.
Again? You can. Number 4, do a self-critique. No problemo, mi amigo. I bet you didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition. Number 5. Just five. And it is a way to put out the word, yours, mine, ours, minutes, seconds, all those words. And that brings us to the ongoing theme. Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world indeed. And in action, it's the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. The evening theme is Birthstone. As opposed to kidney stone.
You don't have to read prop 1, just so you know. Okay.
Oh.
I want to go,
We're pleased to say our feature is...
Marty.
Right there.
Give him the wave. Marty, thank you.
Who will give the Queen's wave tonight?
Or the King's wave.
Keynote is
Britt Peter, who is ready to go.
Peter. While our mini feature is
The glorious and wonderful Buford Bunton.
Buford. And the last word is...
Owen Dunkel, who will kick off the second half and close the second half.
Someone remind Dan to make a feature clip.
Yes, remind me to make a feature clip.
Make a feature clip.
Thank
And
you
now
so
for our fabulous door prizes.
We have many of them tonight. There are free books over here for anybody who wants them. Just so you know, I've said that 4 times. I'll say it 5. They are free books. But these are the door prizes, just in case you know. The Shipping News by Anna. I don't know how to say that. Cruel, thank you. This is a haiku and folded meeting by me, just in case you want to know. Balloon animals, have they been a problem for you? Not with this handy book. The Bridal Canopy by Cy Agnon. Cy, what a guy, I think. And then we have The Sun, 2 novels by Gina Berault, Conference of the Victims and Son, The Sun. S-O-N, not S-U-N, just Sun. And then, recently brought here by a guest who at this table, The Tattooed Lady in the Garden by Patiane Rogers. There's a picture of her on the back. This is not a picture of her on the front. And from another guest in this room, we have Vietnam in HD, in case you want to go there. I didn't go there, but that's because I was 4F. Seamus Heaney, Shame on us, Haiti? No, never mind. And then, of course, if those offerings don't float your boat, you can choose the evening's theme or the prompt for next time, because we have birthstone as the evening's theme tonight. The last word, which Owen is going to do, kicking off the second half and ending it. Co-pilot, which is the person who sits there and reminds me, the camera's not working. Well, you fix that. And who did that? And then the mini feature, which is Buford. He comes in the second half, gets a nice fat 8 minutes. And the keynote, of course, kicks off the evening, which is Britt. There you go.
Oh, if you wish to record someone, ask permission. We will assume you've done so should any of us notice recordings being made.
Thank you so much. Give him a round for doing all that. There's no excuse for quality work. And now we'll begin with what we're going to do is have the keynote, and then the proverbial birthstoners will be a selection from this ancient and quality publication of over 40 years ago, right? More than 40 years. Yeah. So, and I'm in this, and the feature is in this, and other people are. So we will cover that ground, and people going, what were they on when they wrote that? And I'll say, I was high on the real thing, cool, clean gasoline and a good shoe shine. He remembers that. All right.
Fireside Theater.
Yes. Get thee behind me. Anyway, so Britt, give him a round of applause. He's going to launch into the evening here with respect and honor. And make sure you're loud so we don't have to worry about anything.
These are closer to keystones than birthstones. River Roses. By the Isar in the twilight, we were wandering and singing. By the Isar in the evening, we climbed the huntsman's ladder and sat swinging in the fir trees overlooking the marshes. While river met with river, and the ringing of their pale green glacier waters filled the evening. By the Isar in the twilight, we found the dark wild roses hanging red at the river, and simmering frogs were singing, and over the river closes was savor of ice and of roses, and glimmering fear was abroad. We whispered, no one knows us, let it be as the snake disposes, here in the simmering marsh.
I'm going to follow that up
With a poem without a single bird in it, Jack Spicer. What can I say to you, darling, when you ask me for help? I do not even know the future, or even what poetry we're going to write. Commit suicide, go mad. Better people than either of us have tried it. I loved you once, but I do not know the future. I only know that I love strength in my friends and greatness, and hate the way their bodies crack when they die and are eaten by images. The fun's over. The picnic's over. Go mad. Commit suicide. There will be nothing left after you die or go mad but the calmness of poetry.
Now he'll come back to do his own poems on the open. But now as a special event, since we have the birthstoners here, we are next. Well, they are. I am one, and they are. So
Give us an introduction, Dan. What's the birthstone thing?
all right. Can you see if I'm framed in here?
I will. I'll
Thank
check.
you.
Just make sure am I framed in here. It's not my fault I
Stand
didn't
on,
do
you
it.
don't have to hunch. Just stand up, and then I'll adjust it.
Don't do this at home. We are professionals.
Perfect.
It says here on the cover, the summer of 1976, and way back then, several of us in this room were at San Francisco State. And I don't know how it came about, but someone said, let's do a poetry magazine. And we won't sell it, and we'll make lots of money. Wait a minute. So this is the first issue, and it was a process of a lot of conversations, and then even more conversations. And we're going to read from this beautiful piece in the order of that we're in. Now, who was the first one? Martin. So Martin Joseph wasn't one of the editorial staff, but he's famed as being known to both Peter and I. We didn't know that we didn't know that we both knew him until we both found out that we knew each other. So he's going to kick it off, and then we'll find out who's the second one.
I believe I am.
Okay, and then it's Mark, and then me. Then me, then Mark. Okay, all right. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Give him a round of applause because he's trying to find his poem in there. And we might have to adjust the mic.
It's only about 10 pages.
I didn't remember that I had this one in Birthstone. But yes, as Dan said, we both of these guys knew me, but they didn't know that there was a connection. Okay, so this one is called Summer Night at Tortilla Flat. I should mention that in January of 1974, I moved into a flat in 809 Castro Street, and below me in 807A was one Peter Marti, and above me in 807 was one Paul Marti. So I was part of a Marti sandwich. I was the Martin in the Marti sandwich. So, and we had roommates that included David Leidig and Alan Acacia, who was the guy that you heard me read the feature about in November and who passed away in December. It's called Summer Night at Tortilla Flat. These days are restless. The summer is almost gone, and in the night, three spirits meet at the kitchen table. One is hungry. He reads reality sandwiches and yearns for a woman who will not see him unless she can have him. The second will watch no television when there is the sound of pacing next door. His thoughts of other places dissolve temporarily into a neck massage. The third has slept before and would keep the sweeter parts of an old relationship that has fallen like a ripe plum. Now he writes, and later he will stroll in the garden. These days are restless. Old cocoons tremble in a light breeze. The smell of gardenias and roses spills out over vegetables and mixes with the moonlight. So next up is Peter, right? Peter, you doing the next one? Okay. Our feature tonight, Peter Marti.
We'll be back to this guy.
All right, I should mention in Pamela Duvall
Yeah?
and Karen Wagner.
Yes.
Isn't that her name?
Yeah.
Our
They were also
co-editors.
co-editors, but we haven't been able to get in touch with them. We don't know where they are.
Go figure. Who wouldn't want to be here?
I know.
So Martin alluded to Alan Acacia, and this poem is called "To Be a Poet Is Not Enough" for Alan Acacia. And there's a quote: "There's no tyrant like one's own mind," and that's Louis Ferdinand Céline. "As long as there is sleep, there is no madness. Regular pots of healthy soup, even a little loneliness stew gives strength. Robot waiters and fry cooks love the world, they revel in it. A jogger sweating over hills, boys in trees. It's not enough to say acacias are blooming early this mild year. Saffron blossoms out of place. Winter sun warming remains winter sun. Brown East Bay hills are dark against blue sky. It is not just nature to confuse the seasons. It is not enough to cry that I have no love in this empty January. Poets, go fishing."
Oh, That's right. I'm here. Can you check me again, please?
I'll check you.
All right.
Stand tall.
Huh? I'm
Stand as tall as
stand
you
tall.
are.
Stand tall, stand. Oh, I forgot my glasses.
Hey,
Don't
Dan,
need those,
Huh?
right?
can you tell the audience to quiet down while the poet is reading?
Yes, please quiet down as the poet is reading.
Bob, stop reading out loud. Stop reading out loud. Someone else
It's
is
not your
reading.
turn.
Please stop.
No, it's not your turn yet.
Dare to touch that, I'll punch you in the nose and make you.
Okay, Martin, let me just Bob, it's not your turn yet. You're coming up. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So this goes way back. I was on a bus, and the scene is from the bus, Muni bus. In the AM sun of the Fillmore bus, this man, a study of fine lines, rough creases, rustling hands in his twisted bag of pecans, offers some as his talk wanders to the housewife whose robe is too small and smudged. Her feet bulge over her blue house slippers. Because their eyes met, he offers his food for consideration. A listener, she knows enough to say, "No, I'm on a special diet." With a smile, he returns to the pecans at the very bottom of the small bag. Okay, let me get the next one. There. Yeah. Give Mark a round of applause as he comes up.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, not
It's very strange to see this literally. I haven't looked at this for, what? How long is it? 40 something years. So I looked at it and I went, whoa. Anyway, here it is. And Mom, have not forgotten your hair image in the bath, frightened of my eyes, overage schoolgirl, the final vibration of drink not yet there in New York, boys dropping pants in closets showed penis buds once the postman came to Joey's while we did it. Got so mad, told you I'd pull my own hair, red scalp, self-angry. You said, go on. I raged, unable to skin myself, or you, hating you, I guess, though sad to know it.
Thank you very much. And this is the historical document. We kicked us off.
When we're all dead, look for it on eBay.
Here we go. All right.
Or get it now.
Yep. While it's hot.
And cheap.
All right. So now it's going to be Bob over there. Are you going to read for over there, Bob?
Yeah, first I'd like to make an announcement.
Yeah.
My package is.
What color is it?
How have dreams the heart of my pet? What happened was my mind was all dreaming and I noticed my cat. And I wrote this poem about being a hope. How have dreams and other constellations dogged my sky? Espoused my doubts with long consideration to try to teach the dread of God. Is awe instructions mean called love, that palm to head invade those constant power from above? Is this the thing called dread? What of dreams which conjure, breathless from the dead, that call by different nomenclatures, breath that light once wed? And what of perfect willfulness that never sleeps but cries up to the skies of emptiness its undelivered lies? So, what of the penitentiary dust that holds repentance deep beneath the dog confidence that moons our trust, and stars made love beneath our feet. So what of righteousness that quells all lust, that grants us breath of life, that guarantees our steadiness? There's one
All right.
called Speechless. I started to write a poem about being speechless. In the beaches of the evening, why do I call it a beach or beaches? Because it is dimming in the light, turning its eyes in cool sand drifts, like a turquoise glitter beneath the moon. Why do I call it glitter? Because it is. Like inviting footpaths, and speech comes like water on the stopping shore. Gulls and bluebirds comb the air with pearls. Here, sound is like music not yet unfurled. The string quartet raised its bows and stopped. We are here, but listen to the I and there. Sudden, convincingly turned its steady crag to seaward, yet we cannot use sentences nor paragraphs. Something so still, magnified in the atmosphere. Do not say otherwise, perhaps, nor yet tomorrow. Silence fills the panorama. The heart beats slow now.
Say again?
Most in the world have.
All right. Let me read the next five so they know who they are. Marlon Brando, Charles Hawtrey, Lauren Bacall,
Here.
Adam Sandler,
Here.
Morgan Freeman,
Not here.
Chuck Rages? Chuck Rages? Anyway, I'm just joking about that. Chuck couldn't make it. We have Rosie, then Stephen, then Kelly, then Hal, then David. So Rosie, will you kindly come forward, please? I figured that way you'd have enough time to get your... I was trying to give you an eye look, but you were busy studious, and that's fine. That's how I explained myself to my kindergartners today. I said, you know what you can always do? And they said, what? You go, hey, what does that mean? I said, that means try.
All right.
They laughed. They
this is,
got it. They thought that was
yeah.
funny. They said I was Mr. Funny for a while.
Yeah, you're Mr. Funny.
All right.
Well, I'm going to be shameless here and say, and if you can get this.
I'll go
it's-
back a little bit so it'll...
All right.
Yeah,
This
let me
is,
tell you
I'm
what you
doing
got.
this for my son-in-law.
All right.
Okay. It's just ideas that make noise.
There you go. It's perfect.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. You know, in the springtime and for May, it used to be that those little stories in the merry, merry month of May, somebody, woman would drop her handkerchief. But being that we're here, it's you drop your poem and somebody picks it up. I had some other ideas, but I made the mistake of actually listening to the news or something like that. So what comes to mind is Hamlet. What a piece of work, human, so noble in reason, how infinite in faculty and apprehension, how like a god. The beauty of the word, the paragon of animals. I have of late, of wherefore I know not, lost all my mirth. This brave o'erhanging firmament, the air, look you. This brave o'erhanging firmament, this majestical roof studded with golden fire. Why does it appear to me to be a most foul conflagration of vapors? What a piece of work, human, how noble in reason.
Nice.
and then making leaps, because we do leaping poetry. I don't even know if Robert Bly's alive anymore. Is he?
He is, yeah.
He is? Okay. All right. Is he still banging on the drum with guys? Okay. All right. No offense.
By itself.
Okay.
Now, respect the old guy.
Yeah, no, really. There's that little book that he had called Leaping Poetry, and it was really helpful about making translations, even if you didn't know the other language. You could have 5 translations in front of you and then make your own. So how do I make the leap here? A couple weeks ago, I read a Sistina. It was about wondering what the heck to do when I got pregnant, and so I elected to have the child. And this is a poem that I wrote for my daughter. Beginnings. In the beginning, you were nameless. I could say you were mine, that we were alone, that it wasn't lonely, that we comprised this two-sum, glowing peach fuzz stretching round a yielding frame. And when your father linked his heart with ours, we had something to share with the family and stood in our time as lineage. This day, I remain unsure of where you come from, daughter. You created me from scattered oak twigs, formed a rooted trunk solid enough to carry you full cycle. Would you ever come? All mounding evidence announced your certainty. I lost a waistline, you gained territory, straining sinew toward full extension. Now a heel, then a shoulder, pressed for definition, and I jumped. My startled guts compressed, and we shifted like awkward teens in a first embrace. Each night I slept a growing dream, knowing you by heart, but not by name, and wanting and wishing you all good things. I'm pulling out from some old stuff, and I was going to do, I thought about birthstone, and found out that a friend, I'd been trying to figure out where he was. I found out that he passed away, and I didn't get a chance to really write anything about birthstones except to say that Richard Milner, presente, and he was born, and now there's a stone remembering him. So I'll end with this. How much time do I have?
Less than a minute.
No, then 47. Then I'll leave the last thing. I'll leave the lullaby for another time. Thank you.
Oh, all right. I didn't know how long it was. All right. Thank you. Give her a round. Rosie. Oh, can you hand this to her, because she referenced that other piece, and even though you changed it, you referenced the other piece. So I can't remember who wrote that. Who wrote that? What a piece of work.
Okay.
Shakespeare.
Oh, I thought so, but I didn't want to put it in there and then have it be wrong and someone say, Dad, in your write-up, you fucked up again.
Do they say that?
All right. Stefan, this is his first time, ladies and gentlemen. Give it a rebound! I didn't hear animal noises. Come on. This is the man. Look at that face. It's a face of ages, a face of beauty, a face of concern. I was going to say other things, but he figured I don't know how well you could hit me, so I'm just going to stop walking.
This is Stefan's cherry.
Thank you.
Be gentle.
But I just came along with my friends to join them for an evening of poetry, and I intended just to be here to listen. And at the last minute, Mark insisted I'd bring something.
Thank you, Mark.
And I don't have much. Most of it, there's a lot. It's all rumbling around in space, lost somewhere between my head and my hands. And that's either some kind of tragic laziness or fearfulness or something. But anyway, here's something short. I grew up along the verge between the ocean and the California hills, and so it's influenced my life a lot. And spent a lot of time offshore and out of sight of land, even sailing. And these days I spend time in a small boat or on a large paddleboard. And it's like a real place of solace. You know, you go out on the surface of the sea, and there are very few people out there all around the world compared to who's on shore. And so sitting offshore even a half a mile or 100 yards and looking back at the endless joy and sorrow of humanity and all of the other sentient beings, it's just kind of amazing. So,
Get closer for the
Oh,
mic, just
okay.
yeah, just so people.
This one's called Boardwalk. Waiting for fireworks after dark, 1,000 young students swarm along the boardwalk, up and back, turning telepathically. A bright stream along the slow reef of double perambulators, grandfolk, and cops.
Nice.
Floating offshore in the kelp, otter, dolphin, pelican, fog, patterns of current overlapping and relaxing, even though a big shark cruised this beach just yesterday. On land, there is a couple kissing in a car, dogs sniffing in a circle, a drunk arguing with a lamppost, and all the while rain coming slowly from the south.
Very nice. See?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you for that. Okay, Hamlet's soliloquy on his father's grave. Thank you so much. And now, wait a minute, you're new, aren't you?
Yes.
She is new. This is Woo!
I have 3 poems.
Who is this?
Golden Gate.
Yes, introduce yourself.
This is Kelly.
My name is Kelly Alsop.
Thank you, Kelly.
The first poem is called Golden Gate. If I were Anne Carson, I'd write about 2 good people biking out together on a bridge. The 2, their names would be something like Dolphin Eyes, the gray in hers magnetizing, the slippery cetacean, a hover and muscle in the heaving current, and Green Shoes, like the apple of his bookshop and the algal way it bundled sunlight, giving him air to breathe. The bridge, completely companionable, also felt lonely, not for its co-eternal color or paired cantilevers and towers, but for the way a bridge both binds 2 things together and dignifies their separation. It's not over, sorry.
Oh, sorry. The pause, you know.
So she finned a false euphemism to mask her desire to once again feel his nimble mouth on hers, for her own mouth to irresist, like popcorn kernels shattering in dance of suction, tongue, lift, and the jaw-loose pistons of rhythm teeth, radiantly breaking after brackish lips.
Ooh.
The way the light shone on the surf, past the bridge's lamp-made shadow, the moon a milder turtle on its back, shell become milk unspilled, swelling, living its home a cup of sake wine instead of the familiar covering. Green shoes towing the seedbed of stars, dolphin eyes blinking the moment she felt she had hands, one finger finding a soft little spot where heavy head meets the outstretched neck with its tiny antennal hairs and drop of ear silken and water whispery. And his long, capable hands, they reached to, in the span between weight they each could bear, and the place where those anchors are ringed by dream, by mutable, somehow stabilizing ocean. And I think I'll just read one more. The Upper Green. Our alpine goat, Mariposa, died in June. Her last meal included a donut. Before burial, we adorned her body with more common snacks, nasturtium and leaves of the sweet gum, but also the perfumed flowers of sweet pea, which even a goat shouldn't eat. They fell on her gently, like paper confetti, in colors diverse as table wine and amethyst, and ascended their scent back toward us. Much as her horns, tougher than nails, but still made of the same, were covered last by soil, while her memory drifted further free. I felt full and rich with grief, and moved all those feet of earth until the pollinators slumbered. Mariposa left behind our 2 old ewes, Cloud and Magpie, dubious of being approached as hummingbirds, but bumblier. As summer grasses flattened brown, the only browsers our pasture knew were deer. Now we add to the herd new flyers, the common buckeye or buck, and Rufus for the once named and similarly cited Towhee, twins who carry her alpine but express a bit more Oberhausley. Why are they all named after things that fly? They ask. I tell them it's because all ruminants go to heaven, each thought and its thinker, an abundant fiber by spirit stirred. All our companions' friends are taken to salt and sky. The sea otter and the barn owl, all of us, creatures come densely of light.
Thank you. Khalid. And you can come back any old time. All right, now in case if you some of you, Hal Robbins will be new to some of you, but he's not new to some of us. And Hal is the next poet of the evening. Then we have David Britt. Then it looks like me, then Martin, then Mark, then Peter, our teacher. I think that's the way we have it written. Well, we'll make that happen. And give him a round of applause, please. He came up there. Thank you.
Ars Poetica by Archibald MacLeish. A poem should be palpable and mute as a globed fruit, dumb as old medallions to the thumb, as silent as the sleeve-worn stone of casement windows where the moss has grown. A poem should be wordless as a flight of birds. A poem should be motionless in time as the moon climbs, leaving as the moon releases twig by twig the night-entangled trees, leaving as the winter leaves behind memory by memory the mind. A poem should be motionless in time as the moon climbs. A poem should be equal to, not true. For all the history of grief, an empty doorway and a maple leaf. For love, the leaning grasses and 2 lights above the sea, a poem should not mean, but be. Well, all right, I have something. The Garden of Love by William Blake. Wasn't prepared to do. Yeah. I went to the Garden of Love and saw what had never been seen, for a chapel was built in the midst where I used to play on the green. And the gates of this chapel were shut, and thou shalt not writ over the door. So I turned to the Garden of Love that so many sweet flowers bore, and I saw it was filled with graves and tombstones where flowers should be, and priests in black gowns were walking their rounds and binding with briars all my joys and desires.
Al Robbins, doctor. Now give a round up for David, who'll be followed by Britt and me. Give him a round, please. The mighty, the magical, the magnificent.
Keep going.
The modest.
You're on a roll.
Yeah, well, no, it's a Kaiser roll, so I don't.
Oh, it's a Kaiser roll.
What is a Kaiser roll anyway?
Jawohl.
Huh? Is the one with the pumpernickels on it?
That's the one.
Really?
Forrest Gumption. You request me to answer promptly But your approach is sometimes restrictive rather than freeing. If a word has 4 or more separate meanings, it doesn't need a subtext. It doesn't need 3 other words as part of a list to include in an arbitrary or stilted manner. Improvisation means leaving space for unstated daylight. Listen to good jazz musicians the very first time they sit down to play together. They listen as well as they play. Rest and action are equal participants, if Art Landy has anything to do with it. They end together by magic, or what you would call ESP.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right. Or as we like to call him, David. You know. All right, now Britt Peter, the keynote of the evening, is coming back to do his own poems in the open. Give him a round of applause. We'll be followed by me, unfortunately. So, as we say in France, good luck with that.
Okay. First stones. A jeweler's shell, while magma spews from the mountain's core. You must know it's ruby, and I'm nearly 80. Rocks in all forms, what you and I stand on. 2. Beauty in rocks, the ruby, the diamond, laced into the fabric of her shawl, and the crystal, its many edges. This is for Dan and the other teachers in the room. I wrote this a long time ago, and I don't know if it still fits. Classroom security. You don't need a gun at school or an armed guard. You need a father figure in the hall, a hawk-eyed mama there. These sweet little anarchists passing, a teacher at every door, welcoming, come on in, let's go. Chalk and bells, warmth and nurturing. The beginning circle, who said we don't know how?
Yeah, who said?
5/23/18. It rained last night, the sidewalk is wet. Dreams of tame anxiety, what to read, what to write. The internal environment is a shambles. Where are my books? Where is my pen? I'm running out of time. A wet morning, sidewalks are wet, moist air, fresh flowers, the slight fatigue from recent dreams.
Nice. All right, so, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. So, can you do that again?
Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good evening. Are we having a good evening?
Oh, yes.
So I'm going to start with a haiku and end with a haiku, and between the haiku there are these two, with my friends in mind. Everybody knows what a water strider is because I say this. What's a water strider? A water strider, you know this? Yes? Okay, go. Okay. Star of the show. Water strider. Kicks, rippling the moon. So, everybody remembers 2012, right? Never mind. So I wrote this in honor of 2012. The year that was. Remember that show, That Was the Week That Was? Okay, this was the year that was. Anyway, the year that was. That was the year that was, the mighty 2012. It was all going to be over, done, finished, and through. Millions, no, billions saw the films, read books, clicked on those websites, saw Hollywood's science magic, believed a Mayan myth, looked at the constellations, and counted down. I'll bet there were suicides, or worse. Yet, here we are again, alive and kicking, looking around, still wondering what happened when nothing did. Seeing everything go on same-o to same-o. Calendar pages were turned, clocks struck. I wonder about the next big one. What will it be? When will it come and go? Until then, I have another modest proposal. Say, why don't we look away from doomsday, now that it's done being done, and look to what's left, the vast, complex, global mess, which now, miraculously, we have ample time to address. And if you'll cast your minds back to those horrible days of yesteryear, in the reign of George, I call it the reign of error, George, what's his name? Anyway, thank you.
Son or the father?
No, the son, actually, the idiot savant, or savant, whatever. Anyway, so let me get to the gut chase. This is an open letter to Ann Coulter. Now, this originally was sourced from a friend of mine who had in mind a song that he wanted to write, so he sent me the original lyrics, which didn't make sense to me, but I juiced them up anyway. So here we go. My dear Ann letter. I want a girl who uses knee pads like a whore, so she won't snag her nylons on Rush Limbaugh's floor. Who slips OxyContin in his tumbler of neat scotch as they frag Vietnam amputees in a Vietnam Vets March. Who licks Cuban cigars with G. Gordon Liddy and drinks with Tom DeLay because, well, he thinks she's kind of pretty. Who'd love to throw a brick at dumb old Howard Dean, then kickbox her way through the crowd to get away clean. A girl who'd tattoo a Hummer on her vibrator machine because it doesn't burn enough Iraqi gasoline. Yes, a girl who paves her own exclusive driveway with the headstones of those she's backstabbed in her day. A girl who makes lampshades that take away your breath from the fatty skins of liberals she's skinned alive to death, with a blowtorch tongue that etches her initials into hippies stretched on a rack for hot and sexy thrills. A girl with fascist delusions, fast and feckless, who attacks, who wears Ray-Bans at midnight, who creates her own facts, who gets real juicy, dreaming of hot Nazi sex that finally sets her free, who loves a hate crime scene and her cheap law degree. I want a girl with a real short fuse and long, vicious rants who disposes of the helpless, the poor, as she passionately pants. A real drive-by babe with her neocon hips tightly skirted in our flag, who will go down on a pulpit while eternally on the rag. Yes, dear God, I want a girl with a voice as pure as cyanide gas in a sweaty leather thong with swastikas on her skinny white ass. A girl whose machete wins her debates. I want someone bolder with fingernails like razors, whose initials are Ann Golder. I did send that to her, but I never heard back. I wonder why. And I'll do my closing haiku just to clean the plate. A cigarette smashed out in the guacamole the morning after. Thank you.
All right. All right, now how are we going? So this is so now Mr. Martin Joseph, yes, and then we'll proceed a pace, a want, a non, and a new. I say things like that, and I don't know what I'm saying. The words just come, and I say them, and if I get a good response. Give him a round of applause, though. Mr. Martin Joseph, for crying out loud.
I always go after Dan so I can adjust the microphone. This guy that is going to be featuring tonight has so many facets to him, one of which was his fool cap ceremony. This was done a while back, and a couple of his tortilla flat friends accompanied him on it. So I'm going to read the first of the trilogy of poems that I wrote about Peter. This one is called Buddha Sheriff. It was more like a Sergio Leone trilogy where I wrote also The Return of Buddha Sheriff and then finally Fistful of Karma. So this one was written for his 42nd birthday, which was a while back.
No.
A couple days ago.
42. Some say it's the answer to most questions about the universe. Others say it's just another day in the life of our main man. Oh, sure, there's time for assessment, time to figure out who to shoot and whether it's really worth it. Time to figure out where the next buck is coming from. Time to twist the dial on the airwaves until you find something the least bit in tune. Few of us remember the days when he was the Buddha sheriff of this town. He'd walk tall down the street carrying heavy moral lumber, and no one wanted to face the wrong side of his ohm. That, of course, was before the bugs took over, or rather, before we noticed that they had. Like our man Darwin, he learned to adapt and to grow skilled and nimble when handling the short end of the stick. Now, the bugs envy him. They ask each other, how could he have survived with all that's happened? Surely, when we bugs have long expired, they say, he will remain, walking tall once again and carrying heavy moral lumber.
Thank you, Martin Joseph. And now, Mr. Mark Olmsted is the penultimate pre-micer before our ultimate feature, Mr. Martin. And let me just get this organized for you. Okay, you're ready to go.
All right.
All right, I'm going to focus in on you, though.
Okay.
Got some red eye going on there.
Well, sort of vampiric quality.
All right, no.
This is actually going to be an extended introduction to my good friend Peter Marti. So I want to say a few words about Peter because I actually have something written about him also because he inspires us like Neil Cassidy.
Okay, let me do